The Yamaha TW200, the ultimate beginner bike? Let's talk about it. Join me. Hello, D-Rock here. Welcome to the channel. I hope you all are well. So I've got the TW200 out today. Just doing a little light maintenance on it, tires, chain, just making sure it's good to go. I'm going to go for a ride on it. I love riding this little bike. And I thought, man, you know what? I should make a video because I think this is probably the ultimate beginner bike for many reasons. But I'll go over the specs of the bike. And I just want to say that it's not just for beginners, regardless of how long you've been riding motorcycles. There's always room for a TW200 in the stable because it's a reliable, capable, and affordable little tractor. This bike is just a hoot to ride. So join me for the video. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps us out tremendously. It is free. Let's go ahead and get started here. The Yamaha TW200. Been manufactured since the great year of 1987, and not much has really changed. So most notable about the Yamaha TW200 are the large fat tires. I mean, it's hard not to notice them. So as always, I'm going to go ahead and just go over the specs of the bike, and then I'll just talk about why I think this is probably the ultimate beginner bike. So here we go. First of all, like I said, been manufactured since 1987. Not a lot's changed since then. Like I said, it's this is a reliable, capable, easy to maintain little bike. And it has a 196cc air-cooled engine. It is 5-speed. It's got a ground clearance of 10.4 inches. It's got a seat height of 31.1 inches. So this is really good. It's a great bike. You can get your feet on the ground real easily. You don't have to be a tall person to ride it. Very accommodating in that nature. So if you are new to dual sport riding, one of the biggest things to I guess get over is not having, well, I should say having your feet on the ground just makes a big difference when you're starting out riding. Being able to flat foot and feel comfortable and feel stable. If you're on a taller bike, it can be a little intimidating. Anyway, moving on. Okay, the fuel tank, 1.8 gallons. It does have a reserve. So how far can you go on a tank of gas? Let's see. I think we did a trip through a canyon in Death Valley on this bike. Jen was riding it, my wife, and she ran out of gas right around the 90-mile mark and had to hit the reserve. So, I don't know, probably 100 miles or so comfortably. 100-mile mark's usually my time to put in some extra gas anyway. I'm always a little, it's always in the back of my head. So, I don't know. UTW owners may want to chime in on this one, but let's just roughly say 100 miles and maybe 90 miles and you hit the reserve. That's been our experience. Moving on. So the tires, this is, okay. Tires are notable here, and let's just talk about them real quick. The front is an 18-inch and the rear's 14. However, they are big and wide and fat. So this lends to the stability of the bike and making it quite capable in lots of different terrain. But I also want to point out that's kind of the one thing about the bike, can be a little spendy if you got to replace. The tires are, I think each one is probably going to start at around $100 and go up from there, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, fellow TW owners, if you want to chime in the comments, please, by all means, we're all here to learn. So another good thing about this bike, especially if you're a beginner and you're just getting into dual sport motorcycle riding, is you probably don't want to drop $10,000 on the bike, because you're not sure if you're really going to get into it. So this bike is 4,800 MSRP, right thereabouts. So when you add in taxes and all the other good things that the dealer does, you're probably out the door at around 5,200 or so, I believe, maybe a little more. So just over $5,000 you can get this bike, maybe 55. Let's just go to, times have changed. Times have gotten a little more expensive. It is 2024 and this is a 2020 model, so I imagine things have gotten a little more expensive. We all know this, but a very affordable bike. And I mentioned reliability. This bike is carbureted, it's air cooled, and simple maintenance is very easy on this bike. So it's great to learn on. You know, you want to change the oil, things like that, change an air filter. It's pretty simple, and there's not a lot that's going to go wrong with this bike. So you can have a peace of mind when you take this thing out in the backcountry or something, that it's more than likely it's going to get you back. So I'm doing this kind of review on the bike. However, this is my wife's motorcycle. This is what she learned on. We still have it, and we have no plans of getting rid of this bike. It will stay with us for probably quite some time. So I asked her just a couple quick things about pros and cons that she thought of the bike. And she has more experience riding this bike than I do. And a couple quick things as far as the pros of the bike for a beginner rider. I kind of already went over this. The fat tires and the bike being low to the ground, so it's easy to get on. It's easy to stand up. It's easy to flat foot the bike, so it'll help you grow your confidence. Also, I should mention the weight of the bike. So the curb weight of the TW200 is 278 pounds. Now that may seem like a lot if you are a beginner. However, that's pretty light for a dual sport motorcycle. It's very light, considering it just goes up from this point. So one of the pros is that you take this thing off road, or even you're going to drop it, you will lay this bike down. And part of riding motorcycles in general is you need to be able to pick this bike up. So due to the lighter weight of this bike, it's not as intimidating because you can handle it. You can pick this bike up. It's very simple to pick up, big confidence builder, which will allow you to take a little more chances in some more difficult terrain, knowing that you can deal with this bike. Pick it up. The price I've already went over is starting to be mostly affordable. Sorry, my dog scratching at the door is kind of taking my concentration away. Anyway, and she also brought the fact that these bikes, the TW200s, are used, at least in our area, for training for the moto safety class. So this is what people get trained on, this bike. As a matter of fact, we can usually find pretty good deals on them because the motorcycle safety courses will ride them for however many miles and then trade them in or whatnot. So it's something to take into consideration. And Jim wanted to point out a few cons that she's experienced with the TW, and there's not many cons, trust me. But they are important and should be discussed. So one thing she said of is that she grew out of the bike pretty quickly. It's not a very powerful bike. It's 196 cc. Yes, this bike will do 55 miles per hour down a highway. It might be a little difficult to maintain it once you get in the hills. It depends on how much weight you got on the bike and all the other variables, if you're into headwind or whatnot. But she did grow out of it pretty quickly. However, there are always uses for a TW200. You want to get out in serious backcountry and do some serious exploring, this is a bike that'll do it. And that kind of leads me back into a couple of the other cons. It is not a very fast bike, but that's not something you need when you're learning to ride. You should be more focused on some other skills and skill building things. You can always get speed. Anyway, and the lack of power. She mentioned that when she would ride, for example, my XT250 going up a hill or something, she liked that it had a little more power. So aside from a few of those, and like I said, fellow TW owners, please chime in what you think a few of the cons of the bike are. Small gas tank, I mean, name it. But feel free to hit up those comments. Those are a few of the cons that she saw with the bike. Like I said, there's not many. So let's have a look at the display on the TW200. yeah, that's pretty much late 80s, early 90s tech right there. It doesn't get any more easy than that. Nothing digital. I think you've got some lights. You got a neutral indicator, a high beam indicator there, and then a turn signal. So that's about it. A little speedometer. Pretty simple. And you got a little trip indicator there, so you can switch that back to 0 to check your mileage. That'll help with your keeping, your mileage for your gas readily available, so you know how far to go or anything like that. We need to add some more gas, but that's about it. Pretty simple. Electric start right there. They got rid of the kick start. I forget when, but they did used to have it, and it's just electric start. But if it dies on you out in the desert or the mountains or wherever you happen to be riding, this bike is very easy to bump start because it's so light and easy to deal with. Okay, so you can see there is a big difference in tire size, width that is, from the XT250 to the TW200. Those are the rear tires, of course, and these are the front. So as I mentioned, the TW has a 18-inch front, and the XT has a 21. So a bit of a difference there, but you can see width-wise, TW is a big old fatty there. So for a beginner rider, these big, wide, fat tires are very stable. So that lends a sense of confidence as you begin riding this bike. So all that does is build your skill, build your confidence, and enables you to go further and further, which is why I think this is a great bike to begin with. All right, I think we should just go ahead and go for a ride. I'm having too much fun looking at this bike, but I'm ready to have even more fun by riding it. Are we ready or are we ready? Yeah, we're ready. So one thing I'll point out about the little TW, and that's the key word there. This is a little bike. It's not intimidating at all. Which is good for a new rider, because you get good at something by doing it. And if you are not familiar with riding a motorcycle and you go ahead and get a big 500-pound adventure bike, a large dual sport bike to start out with, it can be a little intimidating in the beginning. And for some people, you get off on the dirt, you get in some gravel, it slides out from underneath you, you experience how difficult it is to pick up one of those big bikes, and you're going to get turned off from riding. And that's not what you want to do. You want to ride and ride as much as possible. That's how you build confidence, and that's how you build skill. And starting out with a small little bike is exactly how you want to do that. I'm not saying that you can't start out with a big heavy bike. Lots of people do, but it's not an ideal way to learn, in my opinion anyway. As I keep saying, this is a small bike. And, if you're a really tall person, let's just say 6'2" or so, you're not going to be very comfortable on this bike, especially if you are intending to use this for just on the asphalt where you're just sitting constantly. It can get uncomfortable pretty quick. So I should also point that out, because I need to be honest here. Once you get in the dirt and you're able to stand up, stretch those legs and whatnot, it's going to be a little more comfortable. And like I said, when you come to a stop, it's got a low seat height of 31 inches, and you can just flat foot this bike. So that's another thing that'll lend to your confidence, is being able to manipulate and maneuver this bike easily. Now, as far as riding the roads, this bike has no problem
getting up to speed. 55 miles per hour. It says it'll go up to 70. I'm not so sure about that. I believe Jen's maybe touched 65 on it in a tailwind. It's not a very powerful bike, which is also good for a beginner. So when you start out and you hit that throttle, this bike is not going to stand up and buck you off. So that's another thing that can be quite intimidating. And she'll easily get up to 55 miles per hour. So if you're looking for speed and power, a TW200 is not the bike you should be looking at. However, as a beginner new to dual sport motorcycle riding, as I mentioned earlier, speed is probably not the first thing you want to be thinking about. I stand at 5'10". The motorcycle is fairly comfortable in this position. Like I said, if I were to stay on the asphalt for 100 miles, I'm going to be considerably uncomfortable just because of my body positioning. But for mucking about, you know, it's not bad at all. But I have the same problems with the XT250 for long rides on the asphalt. It can get a little uncomfortable with my knees. So I just stop, stand up, walk around for a few minutes, stretch out, and then get right back to it. So if you are new to dual sport motorcycle riding, I'm presuming that you want to ride off-road, hence dual sport motorcycle. And this little bike right here is a goat. Let me tell you, this is an excellent bike to get out in the backcountry on difficult trails. Fantastic handling. Thanks to those big, wide, fat tires. All right. Standing up, like I said, I'm 5'10". I'm pretty comfortable standing up on this bike. Now, you're going to be a little hunched over on it, depending on how tall you are, but you can always add handlebar risers. That'll help out with that. I don't know if you can lower the foot peg. They have lowered foot pegs for this bike, but that is one thing I would highly recommend with the TW200 is getting some wider foot pegs, because the stock pegs, let me show you, it makes a huge difference in riding off-road. While standing is having a larger platform, so you can see how narrow those foot pegs are. So you get some wider foot pegs, it just makes the whole off-road riding experience that much better. So one thing about the TW, when you drop this thing in the first gear, it is slow, which is good. That's something you want for backcountry riding. This is a little tractor. And I haven't been on this thing in a while. I forgot how awesome it was. Oh yeah, it's easy to build confidence on this little bike. Let's get some terrain here. All right. Yeah, this bike just easily goes over stuff. Oh yeah. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, baby. Too much fun, man. Just too much fun. Oh, yeah. You get one of these, you're just gonna have a hoot. So what the TW200 doesn't do well is ride on the interstate and highway speeds. But like I said, you're not getting this bike for speed. Not as a beginner. Whoa. No, this bike is a skill builder. Get you out here. It's a small, nimble, maneuverable bike that is just fantastic on the dirt. And it's not bad. It's actually quite comfortable on the asphalt. But people ride these on the interstate. But it's not what it's good at. So this goes back to one of the cons where you could possibly grow out of the bike pretty quickly, but that depends on how you look at it. These little bikes, I don't really think you can ever truly grow out of them, because these bikes can take you so many more places than a giant heavy bike can. So I don't necessarily believe that you can grow out of them. Maybe you just want something a little more. And you can use these smaller bikes to continue to skill build that will imply on a larger bike. Without a doubt. Here we go. There it is. That's going to happen when you ride one of these off-road. You're going to drop it, you're going to lay it down, and this is the beauty of the bike. At 278 pounds, it is an easy bike to pick up. I mean, you can just lift it up like that. I'm no big strong dude, but this bike is very simple to pick up. I will make one note here, and this is the same for my XT250. You got a full tank of gas, it's going to leak out. The seals suck on both those bikes, and they just leak when they lay down. One thing to be aware of, but yeah, other than that, getting this bike up off the ground is a piece of cake. And let's say that the battery has died. Uh-oh. Well, we'll just get that into neutral. And whatever slight hill you can get on. For example, here we go. Get that in a second. And just switch it on. And gives ourselves a little bump here. Do. And we're off. Piece of cake. Dead battery, no problem. Woo-hoo. Nice. And we're on our way. That's another thing I love about these little bikes. Is you'll, you park to go check out something, and you leave it on, and you can run the battery dead, but they're so easy to handle and maneuver that bump starting one of these things by yourself out in the middle of nowhere is generally not a problem. This is pretty rough stuff right here. This is definitely first gear here. Just tractor up this. Oh yeah. TW makes easy work of that. There's another good one. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, let's go back. Yeah. Nice. Once again, you find yourself in a tight spot on a TW. This bike is so easily maneuverable, so light. You just throw it down,
moving around. Piece of cake. Oh yeah, and the brakes are pretty good too. Well, whew. Oh man, I could ride this thing all day. So the TW is more than capable off-road. You know, you put some racks on this bike and get it into some moto camping mode, and this bike will get you way out in the backcountry. Very, very capable. And overall, the point I'm trying to make with the TW, and as far as it being an excellent beginner bike, is the fact that it's just so easy to ride. It's so fun to ride, and it's going to make you want to ride, make you want to get out there and ride, which is just going to make your skills, make your confidence build up and up and up and up. And yeah, of course, at some point you may want to get into something bigger for more power, naturally so, but if you just want to get out and learn and have an awesome time, and you know, it's very affordable, it's reliable, all the things I've talked about, this is the bike for you. This is the bike that will get you more adventure than you can handle. You know? So there you have it. All you fellow TW owners, please chime in the comments with your experiences with the bike. And like I said, it's not just for beginners. You know, salty dogs, this is a great bike to just have in the stable to use to get out there deep in the backcountry and hard to get to places. This bike will do it, and it'll love doing it. So if you found this video helpful, right on. And that's really it. I'm not going to get too much into like the specs of the bike. There's other channels that do it better than I do. But those things that I went over, you know, affordability, reliability, ease of use, confidence builder, lightweight, reliable. Yep, that's it right there. So there you have it. That's why I think this is the ultimate beginner bike. So folks, thank you very much for watching. I've got lots more content on the way. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps us out tremendously. We will see you next time. D-Rock out. Adios.